Okay, so we've already started. We already watched a couple of the videos in class. Those that were late, you missed the videos that we watched. We are talking about habit 5, which is to seek first to understand, then to be understood. The video, that last video we watched, as far relating to empathetic learning or empathetic listening. One thing you have to, all of his examples were more like family examples, and yet these habits are also for business communications and so forth. But it's going to be different, right? It's going to be different. Probably you're going to have more emotional discussions in your family than you are in business. People try to hide their emotions, but that doesn't change the fact that you should be listening, that you need to be listening empathetically. Um, but he mentioned the four, rather the three times when you have to really be empathetic is when you don't understand, in which case, if you're not understanding, you need to, in that case, if it's not supercharged with emotion, then you don't have, then you can probably feel free if you, and if you feel like you have a fairly um, good relationship with whoever it is you're talking to, again, maybe going into the business setting, then going straight to asking questions may be okay. But even those questions that you ask should have some empathy built into them and some sincerity into them so that they really, at first, they will not believe you. For example, if you act too empathetic, you act too um, willing to listen to them, they may not trust you enough yet. You're their boss, for example, and so you're the boss, and they're asking you to open up and tell you something that you're not so sure you should say. For example, what do you really think we need to do with our business? I mean, when I ask questions of you all in class, you're very reluctant to answer my questions because you don't want to look like a fool. You're very careful about expressing yourselves in this class. I wish you were more expressive. But I mean, partly culture, perhaps, and maybe it is that you don't trust me, that I'm really serious about wanting to know what you think, or that I'm going to make you look stupid. Whatever it is that you're not at ease with answering my questions. Well, now put yourself into the business setting, and your boss asks your opinion about what the company should be doing. Could I expect that you really are going to answer him honestly? That you're really going to open up and tell him exactly what you think? If you're not answering the easy questions I ask, are you going to be able to actually, or will you actually open up when your boss asks you a question that may be a little more difficult than the questions I ask in class? So putting yourself in that setting as an employee, you can understand why it may take a little bit of persuasion by the boss to convince you as an employee or anybody as an employee. If you're the boss and you're trying to get somebody else to talk to you, you're going to have to show some empathy, and you're going to have to somehow build up that, partly that emotional bank account, that they actually do believe that you want to hear what other people have to say, and that may be a little bit of a challenge. Um, so when you do say something, and even again built into your empathetic learning or empathetic listening is empathetic questioning. It's really important to me to understand what's going on in the front line, so to speak. A company can be destroyed if people in the company um, don't explain to the CEO, directly or indirectly, when there's problems in the factory or whatever the setting is. If they don't feel uh, that their perception, that their understanding of the problems is of interest to me, then our whole company can fail. I'm not saying it's in trouble or anything. I'm just saying that our success as a company depends on me understanding what's happening in all aspects of the company. If I don't understand, I can't make good decisions. So, you represent a portion of our company that I don't work there on a regular basis. I really want you to tell me what is going on down there. Not to get anybody in trouble. You don't have to name any names or anything like that, but just tell me what goes on in your part of the company that could be improved. What do you think? I really want to know your feelings, your ideas. Anyway, so even in the question, you may build into enough empathy and hopefully build enough trust that you as an employee would answer me. And you as the boss would be able to get an employee to answer you. So empathetic listening or empathetic, um, again, how you treat, how you have to handle the situation will differ depending on who you're talking to. As I mentioned, a family might be more typically emotionally charged than in the business, at least on the surface. You don't necessarily know what's going on behind the scenes or what's inside the person. So you don't take it for granted that everybody feels great towards you or the company when you're talking. Or again, another setting is if you're negotiating with another company. Again, how you phrase questions and the sincerity that you can express as you talk to somebody within the company, outside the company, is really important. Uh, I'll assign you next week. I think it is. It's not in this week's, but I think next week, or at least very soon, you'll have a series of videos about seeking the third alternative, and they go in quite a bit of depth on how to phrase questions and so forth, and how to win confidence within a negotiating setting. For example, a company setting where you're negotiating with another company to do something together, to be partners in some new enterprise, for example, and how you can handle that. Last week, you remember, I believe Dr. Covey was talking about how, in some cases, you have to let somebody win, so to speak. You have to, not in anything real important to make it a lose-win scenario, but in order to gain their trust, you have to let them know that you really are looking for a win-win situation. Again, these two habits are intertwined. The win-win is in part a philosophy that you're approaching, that you really don't mind not winning or not achieving a win-lose option. Let me put it that way. That you are sincerely not seeking win-lose. You are sincerely seeking a win-win. And so you have to express that to them. And now the method of achieving win-win is this habit, is to seek first to understand, then to be understood. So again, if you're in a negotiating mode, one of the main things you want to do in that case is you're asking the other company or whoever you're negotiating with to make it clear to you what they hope to achieve by partnering with you on this new project. What will make in your perspective, what does it mean for you to achieve success in this partnership? What is it that we need to do together for you to feel happy about the outcome of our negotiations and then how we proceed into this new enterprise? Where do we go from here? So you listen and you keep asking questions and you keep wanting to find out what it is that that they need to be successful, and that's again really trying to understand them. So empathetic listening is important. It's important in another. We're not going to probably even talk about it right now, but in another setting, as a marketing director, I underwent some training in what's called, let's see, what's the name of that? Oh, I think I have it in a slideshow here, but I always forget the name. Um, Anyway, I'll tell you in a little bit, but it doesn't even matter. Anyway, the training was to, within a sales situation, especially in an area like I was in, where we're talking about, in some cases, $1 million contracts. When you're talking about big ticket items, you really do need to approach that like a doctor. And you really do need to do everything he was saying about um, in his negotiation or in discussion with a son or something. You need to let them know that you are very sincere in wanting to come up with a win-win situation, that you really want to understand where they're coming, what the challenges are for their company, and you take notes like a doctor would. He said, don't be worried about taking notes. You want to act like a doctor would act. You want to be professional. You want to take notes. You want to be able to reiterate or rephrase what they said and make them feel confident you understand their situation. And and then continue to ask questions to find out what it is that you would expect to accomplish to feel successful with this project. Again, as a salesperson, basically as a marketer, trying to get them to hire my services so that we can design their new school or whatever it might be. Same sort of situation. It is, in essence, a partnership. They want to build a school. My company wants to provide the design for that school. And so I need to understand exactly what it is they want to achieve with the school, what are any special um, aspects of the school they want to achieve. It might be their sports facility, it might be their IT services, what it is that they envision this place to be. If they had a perfect school to accomplish what they want to accomplish, what is it? So we can understand totally before we're not going to even give you any recommendation today. We want to totally understand your situation, and then we're going to put a team of specialists together to brainstorm and bring you back a proposal of what we think would make you so happy, and feel so successful when this is all done. So again, that's kind of the approach in trying to sell a big ticket item from a consulting firm. But it's very similar to trying to go into partnership in a business. Um, in a sense, you're going to approach it. If you're selling something, especially a big ticket item, somebody, you almost have to approach it like this is a partnership. We're gonna take $1 million. You're gonna pay us $1 million. We're gonna make ourselves worth it. We're going to save you a bunch of energy because we design the most energy efficient schools in the area. We are going to keep our costs down because anyway, whatever. But so this win-win approach and empathetic listening and empathetic questioning, letting them know that you truly want a win-win, asking questions until you really understand what they want, being able to rephrase it back to them. I'm not sure. Was watching a video, and I'm not sure that it. There's still another video I do want to watch from Covey, but then one of the videos I thought it was one that I had already watched. He was telling me it wasn't available on YouTube anymore, and yet I just started watching it. But anyway, one of the things that he was teaching in that particular um, video was the types of response that you can give to somebody. This is not necessarily good or bad, although it could be. Um, but let me write those down. I forget the first one right now, so I'm going to leave that blank. But one of them is, the first one is mimicking. So that it is rephrasing in a sense, but it's not necessarily showing a lot of understanding behind it. That's seldom very good. One is rephrasing. So now you're doing it with a little more understanding of what a person really wants, because you're putting in you are putting it in your words, but it's expressing your understanding of what it is that you want them to understand. Another one is to express. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to go back and remember the right word. But it is sharing, reflecting back their feeling, and that can be important in a business concern, not just in family. But if somebody, one of the things I was going to say a second ago, this I still can't remember that. This business training that I received, one of the things they said was you need to write down what they call the mystery words. Mystery words. If they use the same word over and over again, that word means something to them. You need to understand what that word means, because it seems to be, if it's something they keep repeating, that there's something behind that word, some sort of feeling behind that word, something that's more than just a definition, because they keep repeating it. So there's something there that is a trigger for them. And so one of the things when you're taking your notes is write down mystery words. They keep using the same word over and over again. Write it down and make sure, and at some point maybe ask them the question. You keep using it, just go ahead and straight out ask them. You keep saying that let's make up a word here, that they might be dependable. You keep using the word dependable in this. What's the background to that? Well, what are you concerned about that causes you to keep saying that you want a dependable facility when you're done? Have you had some problems in the past that have, and what were they? So you start trying to understand what the mystery word is. They keep repeating dependable, dependable, dependable. What's that really mean to them? And then, in the case of this marketing plan, this marketing approach, use that word in your proposal. When you come back a week later with a proposal, you reiterate that word numerous times, because that was an important word to them. There's some feelings behind it. You make sure in your plan that you give to them, you use that word, because, like I said, it may be a key to your getting the job. Somebody else didn't pick up on that. Your competitors didn't pick up on them. Keep saying dependable, 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 dependable. They didn't ask questions about it, and they're going to come back and they're not going to use that word in their proposal. You are. You picked up that there's something that behind. Sorry, this is not good writing. Dependable. Anyway, so there's something in that word that's important. So yes, you want to figure out what it is what emotion, or why it's triggering, or what does that word trigger as far as emotion goes to them. But then again, then use it in your proposal to them. You reiterate their mystery word. It's important to them. Now it has to become important to you if you're going to communicate well with them. So rephrasing and looking out for feelings, what it is that's really a trigger for them emotionally. 4 was both 2 and 3. That you're rephrasing, but you're also reflecting that feeling that they have. You're understanding something that other people might leave out. The emotion behind the phrase, the emotion behind the words. There might be something else there I need to pick up on. I didn't remember. So it may be in this next video. In fact, maybe I think I'll stop this here and go to the next video and see if maybe this is in the video that we've watched 2 videos. The principle of it is here. You explain what your position is until I can understand it. I want to understand where you're coming from. Explain to me what you need for us to proceed with this new enterprise together. Help me to understand what to you would mean success, until I can reflect it back to you and rephrase it, because that shows that I understand. So let's proceed until you feel like I really understand what you need. And then it'll be my turn. And I have the talking stick. And I'm going to explain what we need. And then we can go back and forth and then we can go into perhaps a new phase. And that is, we go into the new phase of what alternatives do we have if what you want and what I want are not consistent with each other. If we can't come up, if it's not obvious how to achieve a win-win situation, then we can start some brainstorming. We can consider some options that maybe neither one of us considered before, where we can be successful, where you can get what you need and where I can get what I need. And if we can do that, then we should proceed and certainly go into this partnership and achieve something wonderful with these new ideas that we can develop. If we can't, then we should part friends, and maybe there'll be a new opportunity in the future where we can work together. So with that sort of disarming approach, it is difficult to get into a confrontation where it's, I'm going to win or you're going to win or whatever. You're looking for that win-win situation, and you're expressing it right from the start. And the very first step is you want to understand what it is they need. What is their vision? What is success to them? How will they feel like they've won, that they're winners in this enterprise before you take the talking stick, so to speak, before it's your turn? And you don't necessarily have to have a talking stick to do this, but explaining where you're coming from, that you are sincere, you really want to know what their goals are, their vision is. And then, obviously you've exchanged some ideas, or you wouldn't be sitting in front of, across from each other at this point. So you have some idea what it is that you want to do together, but now you want to understand really where they're coming from, what they want to accomplish. And once you've done that, then you're ready for success. You've built a level of trust. They believe, and one of the things he was saying earlier is that if you take that approach, if you listen to them first, it does represent a little bit of I'm losing, in a sense. I'm not going to be first. It's a very subtle feeling of losing. I'm going to listen to you till I fully understand. You are subjecting yourself, dedicating your time and your energy to fully understand what they want. Again, that's what I was doing. I always forget the name of that. But anyway, with this sales approach, hard to remember. It's a weird name. Is that is what you're doing, what the salesperson is doing. What I was doing as a salesperson or marketer for the company is I was basically saying that I want to know what's really important to you. I want to know what to you would be a successful project if we were to design it for you. And you take those notes and you really think about them, and you take them back to your team to brainstorm and all that. But one thing that you accomplish when you do that, whether again you're negotiating for a business enterprise, negotiating for a contract, whatever it is you're doing, one thing you do by allowing them to speak first and really explain it to you is, first off, you're disarming them. Any sense of that they have to have the upper hand, that they need to distrust you, that this is going to be a hard negotiation. All those feelings that they came into the room with are gone, because you just said, I subject myself to you right now. I want to understand. It's important to me that we both come out of this feeling good. And so please allow me to understand you first. And then when you feel that I fully understand your position, your concerns, then then if you don't mind, I'd like to explain, our situation. We can go back and forth as long as we have to until we really see if there's a way that we can proceed together. So you disarm them. With the case of a marketing guy comes in, they think you're going to give them a hard sales pitch. And you're saying, no, I don't have a sales pitch for you today. What I want is to understand what you need. And then, I'm not going to give you a sales pitch. I'm going to take what you give me today, and I'm going to go back and brainstorm with our experts, and I'm going to come back and tell you how I think we can achieve everything you want us to achieve. And so we'll come back and make a presentation to you about what we think, how we think we can fulfill your needs. Because if we can't, then we hope we can in the future of some other project. So you've disarmed them. You've armed yourself with information about them. Once you've listened, you have their mystery words. You have what you know now, what it'll take to win this contract, because they've just told you. You've asked enough questions that they've told you what you need to do to win their contract. And so now, you've disarmed them and they've armed you in a sense. But also the other thing that you accomplish there is that they have invested themselves in you. They have invested their time in you. In this example where you're talking about this real estate deal, what he showed them by him now reiterating to them what it was that they wanted. Let me tell you what I think you want out of this deal. And then you can correct me where I'm wrong. Okay, that's basically what he said. And so he started going through, do I understand this right? Yeah, do I understand this right? And maybe he was wrong someplace. And he said he was. And so the guy re-explained something to him so he understood. So what did he accomplish with that? The investor had invested his time into him so he would understand. And he reflected back an understanding. That's an investment. To a businessman, time is an investment. And so once you feel like you have spent your time, hours perhaps, explaining to somebody what you need, and they come back and say, okay, I think I understand. Let me reflect it back to you. Let me explain what I think you want and see if we can accomplish this. And so now his investment looks to him like it's going to pay off, because he explained what he wanted. You've reflected back that you understand. He agrees that you understand. He's corrected you any place where he thinks you're wrong. And now you're saying, okay, where do we go from here? And after that investment and a kind of an emotional bank account, again, an investment to where he feels not just a time investment, but an emotional investment. You have reflected back and he feels emotionally rewarded that you really understand him. Why in the world would he go to anybody else? He has invested his time, his emotion, and you get it. You understand. And he obviously at some point feels that you are capable of delivering to him what he wants. Why would he want anybody else? He's invested into you. You kind of had the same thing, whatever scenario you want to come up with. In real estate sales, sales of consulting, partnering, and in the family. If somebody feels that you really have, that they have invested in you and you have responded in a way that you've built up the emotional bank account where they trust you to want them to be happy. Okay, so you get married and your wife is unhappy about some things, but you really sit down and say, okay, explain to me what's going on. Help me to understand. I want you to be happy. What do I need to do for you to be happy? And it may go the other way around too. Okay, I think I can do those things for you. I also have some problems in our relationship. Do you mind if I explain my concerns? And so that we, happy love is happiness. Basically, love is being happy together forever. That's what love is. Love without happiness is not love. It will disintegrate. The sex part or whatever is going to be kind of, we're going to take each other a little bit granted when it comes to that. But what really matters is, are we happy together? Are we looking in the same direction together? Are we wanting the same goals? And so we need to talk and see if I think we can. I think we were married. We thought we'd be happy together forever. But what is it that's undermining this relationship now? Can we be happy together for the rest of our lives? What do we need to do if we're not both happy? How do we get happy? How do we restore that happiness that we had when we first got married? Whatever the relationship you're building with, it is, a lot of it is right in here, disarming the other person by really listening, arming yourself in a way by understanding, and then understanding there's an investment in that. And some of it is this emotional bank account that Dr. Covey talks about. Just a real quick story in the next couple of minutes, and then I have to change one question, and then you can do your quiz. But basically, when I think I told you before that when I was 25, I bought my first newspaper, and I was not doing real well at first because all the business people in town who were advertising with me kind of felt like I was a charity. They wanted a local newspaper, but they didn't really believe my advertising would do them any good. And so I made some effort. I'm not going to go into the detail today. Maybe I will another time. I made effort to really understand where they were coming from. And I came back and I felt like two things. First off, if they didn't feel like they were getting rewarded, what could I do to help them feel, or that their advertising was paying off? What could I do to help them feel like it would, and indeed help them? Maybe they didn't understand how to do advertising correctly. And what I'd learned was that advertising, one ad now and one ad then, does not pay off. That advertising only pays off if you run a campaign. And I can give you some background to that, but I won't do that today. And so what I did was I created a brand new advertising plan. Most of them were paying about, I had a broadsheet newspaper, kind of like that, maybe a little bigger than that. Broadsheet is the biggest size of newspaper. And so many of them, I'll probably go up to here a little bit. But anyway, most of them were, if I quarter this, basically they were paying for this amount. Occasionally, they felt like that was their charity, 1/8 page. And so I was grateful for it, but I wasn't getting anywhere. I wasn't progressing with my business. And so I went back to them. In thinking about how I could make this a win-win situation, I realized that paper and ink was not that expensive. Paper and ink does not cost that much. It's my time and the time of people I hired and so forth. That was what was expensive, not paper and ink. And so I went back and said, okay, I'll tell you what. If you will sign a contract where you advertise with me every week, not just once in a while, but every week, this is what I'll do for you. I will give you 4 times a year, this is a weekly paper, I will give you a full page, the whole thing, no extra cost. I will 4 times a year, I will give you 1/2 a page, same price, no extra cost. 4 times a year, I will give you a 1/4 page, no extra cost. And then 40 times a year, you will get your 1/8 page that you usually buy. If you will sign a contract, you will get all this, and I think you will be happy by the result because this is a campaign. This is an ad campaign. And you, when you're figuring out what to do with your full pages and your half pages and your quarter pages, you'll be really thinking like an advertising campaigner, not just an advertiser. And so I had a whole bunch of people started signing these contracts with me. And then that also gave me more time because I no longer had to sell them every week because I had a contract with them. So then I had more time. There's opportunity cost. When I was trying to sell them every week, I was losing time, which I was losing opportunity. So once I had them under contract, I could go to the city that was 30 miles away, and I could go after big contracts with the major car dealers and people like that. And lo and behold, I got those. So with my extra opportunity, I was selling full page ads every week, sometimes 2 pages every week to big advertisers in the city 30 miles away, which I would not have had time if I had not made this deal with the local advertisers in the smaller city where I was at. Anyway, consequently, in 1 year, I doubled my income in 1 year with by understanding what they wanted and by achieving a win-win situation. Like I said, the paper and ink wasn't that expensive. It was certainly worth giving them this extra stuff in order to get that signed contract, that weekly contract, and give me more time to develop other revenue sources. And they were happy because with this kind of campaign, they had real results. They suddenly realized this is worth advertising in this newspaper. It's not a charity. They're now getting results. And so it's worth it to them, it's worth it to me. And that was one of the most important things in my business life was the figuring this out. Okay.
Good morning to my classmates and good afternoon to my classmates and Dr. Ken. And today we will be presenting Chapter 2, Staying Motivated, Organized, and on Track. So my name is Yo Kai Tong. She is Lim Yi Hui, Ian Lim, and Ho Zolid. So the first part, staying motivated, is to set goals. Your goals should be realistic. It is actually good to dream big, but honestly, the goals that you set should really relate to your personal strengths and abilities. For example, now that you are students, you can set goals like you want to graduate excellently and get a high-paying career. But it is not really realistic that you set goals of becoming a billionaire in maybe 1 month time just after you graduate. And the second one, be specific. So your goals should be really specific because it is important, and don't be vague. Don't set goals like I want to get some better grades, or I want to lose some weight, or I want more money, because you can just maybe like you lose a pound and you're done. And the third one, your goals should have a time frame. For example, you want to uh, receive an academic excellence award, you can set a 1 year goal for you to get there by working hard in 1 year time. And the third one, the second one, we have to set priorities for reaching your goals. So the question is, what is more important at a specific time? The most important priorities are the most important thing to do right now, and to manage your time very well. When you manage your time well, you don't have to ignore some goals completely in order to meet other goals. For me, I'm a fitness enthusiast, so I hit the gym regularly, like probably 7 times a week. So I set some tiny little goals to gain healthy weight. However, during the final examination periods or the midterm examination periods, I still make some time to go to the gym. So, and at the same time, I can still make time for my revision. So it is actually a matter of time, a matter of are you really managing your time well for your priorities. And the third one, develop an attitude for success. So attitude is influenced by one's personality, upbringing, and past experience. There's no such thing as attitude gene. So if you are committed to your goals, you must learn to adjust your attitude to a positive one. You can adjust slowly by first choosing whom you spend time with, like mixing around with friends who are really committed to studies. because positive attitude can be really contagious if it affects you. And the fourth one, for my part, stay focused and motivated. So how do you stay focused and motivated? First thing is to think about the results of a goal. So maybe thinking merely about finishing a degree doesn't really excite you, but instead you can think of something like a high paying career that comes afterward, and the things that you can do with that income, such as buying big houses, cars, and you can travel around the world with the money. And the second thing is that you have to remember your successes by how good it feels to succeed. So even it is a small success, you can try to remember it, because the feeling, the recognition that you obtain, that you acquire is very, very precious. And that's all from me. I'll pass to Jiwei.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Hui. So now I'm going to talk about the second part, is that creating a productive study space. So how important is to organizing your space? There are three parts here. The first one is to recognize the importance of organizing your space to your best advantage for studying. Second is to avoid the distraction when you are studying. And the third is that to understand the myth of multitasking and to prevent the distraction from your personal technology. So the first point is that every one of us need some physical areas, no matter the place is the size is big or small, even if it is only a part of the shared place. Within the our own place, we will feel more comfortable, and you will also generally feel more secure in control. For example, using your bed as a primary for sleeping makes it easier to fall asleep there than elsewhere, and also make it not a good place to try to stay awake and alert for studying. Different places create different moods, means that for example, in D6 canteen and in library, most of us will choose library as our study place because the situation is more suitable for studies. The second point is that to avoid the distractions. First, you have to choose a place you can associate with studying, and then you keep your space organized and free of distractions. Third is that after a long time of the studying, you have to plan for breaks. And then lastly, you have to prepare for human interruptions. You have to make sure that there is a place is already associated with, is not associated with other activities, for example, like TVs, computers, eating or sleeping. So when you are usually stay in that place, you get more comfort during your studies. And then you have to prevent the suddenly mood of tidying up some areas or washing up clothes during your studies times. And you also can turn off your Wi-Fi uh, to prevent any distractions when you're studying. And after a long time of study, you can plan for a break, because everyone needs to take a break occasionally when we are studying, just like in our lecture class. Some of the lecture will give us some 15 minutes breaks during our class. And the last one is that even though you hide in a library to study, there are also a chance to meet the friends in library. So when you are at home with your family members or in a dorm room or common space, you have to plan ready in case someone poops in and asks you to join them in some fun activities. The last one is to understand the myth of multitasking and prevent distractions from your personal technologies. Uh, I think that all of us is familiar with multitasking, because most of us will multitasking when we are doing something. For example, in this classroom, some of us is like having their laptop and hearing my presentations. This situation is causing you cannot fully concentrate in my presentations. And also, when you are multitasking, you need to have a longer period to finish your work. So the second one is the family and roommate issues. We have to say no to our family or roommates when your roommates or friends are often tries to engage you in the conversations or suggest to do something else when you need to study. You have to learn to be firm but polite as you explain that you just really have to get your work done. That's all my part. So Ian will continue the next slide.
Thank you, Hui. My name is Ian. So now move on to the last part, which is 2.3, be on track. After staying motivated and organized. In another word, stay on track is significantly related to your time management. This is the most important part of our topic, whereas you know what you want to do, why not just sit down and get it done? Millions of people complain every day about not having sufficient time to complete their daily want to do list. So there comes the question, is time management easy or hard? Well, I believe that the majority of the students have the same answer shown in this picture. But to be honest, time management isn't actually that difficult, but you do need to learn how to do it well. Well, the ultimate objectives are firstly, discover your time personality and knowing where you spend your time. Second, understand and practice time management strategies to help ensure your academic success. And next, combat procrastination when it threatens to prevent getting your academic work done. Last but not least, use calendar planner and daily to-do lists to plan ahead for study tasks. So in the case of time and personalities, people attitudes toward time vary widely. For instance, one person seems to be always rushing around, but actually he gets less done than another person who seems to be unconcerned about time. So since there are so many different time personality, therefore it is very important to realize how you approach time. Even while you may not be able to change your time personalities, you still can manage your time successfully. The important key is to be realistic. And in many study and research, time analysis is often the best method to estimate your distribution of time for each category of activity. So if your estimation is higher, you just adjust the distributed hour to be more realistic. And when your estimation is lower, you may find out where does your time go. Furthermore, people also differ in how they react to schedule changes. There are two types of response. The first one, go with the flow, as they accept changes very easily. And the second one, become upset and nervous, as they only function well when they are following a planned schedule. If you do not react well to any sudden disruption, please try to plan extra time to avoid unexpected disruption. This is all part of understanding your time personality in order to react well. Yet, time personality involves time of day. You must discover your most optimal time that you concentrate the best as well as function well. In fact, time management strategies help us wisely use time we have by creating a schedule that works only for our own time personality. So right here, a significant quote that every one of you must remember is that something somewhere has to give. In this following comparison, time management skills are more essential for full-time college students who work part-time, while these skills are even more important for part-time college students who work full-time or having a family. As you can see, full-time college student has lesser discretionary activities than in the past as they started to work, while majority of the part-time college student who work full-time or managing a family has almost no discretionary time at all. Therefore, it is why so important that we must keep our goals and priorities in mind. In consequence, full-time college students might start losing sleep, health, and giving up their social life. For part-time college students, they might overextend themselves. So as a result, it is better to recognize this situation now rather than set yourself up for a difficult term and possible failure. Virtually, everyone must develop effective strategy for dealing with time to succeed in university. And following by practicing this example of time management strategies to ensure academic success. There are few strategies that I personally think that students can begin use immediately to make most of your time. First of all, according to the first picture on your left, What can you guys think of? So actually the strategy right here is breaking up large project into small pieces, so it is easier to get going if you break them up into stages that you schedule at separate times. And second, as you can see in this picture, take a break or have a life. This is very important because it helps us to concentrate without becoming fatigued and burnout. And the third one, keep your momentum. You must prevent distraction such as multitasking, mentioned by my groupmate just now, because it will only slow down your progress. And the last one, please remember to reward yourself because you definitely deserve a small reward like healthy snack, quick video game session, or social activity that can help you feel even better about your successful use of time. And next, I'll pass to Zoli.
Thank you, Ian. Now I'll be talking about battling procrastination. Procrastination is a way of thinking that lets one put off doing something that should be done now. So there are few possible solutions for procrastination. First of all, schedule time for studying using a daily or weekly planner. Carry it with you and look at it often. Just being aware of your time and what you need to do today that can help you to get organized and stay on track. Second, write yourself a note about it for later and get it out of your mind. If you keep thinking of something else, you might forget to do later. So write yourself a note about it for later and get it out of your mind. Next, counter a negative with a positive or a worse negative, which means if you are procrastinating because you are not looking forward to a certain task, try to think of the positive future results of doing the work. Or if you're thinking about the positive result of completing the task doesn't motivate you to get started, so think of what could keep you happen if you fail to do that. And lastly, don't dwell on the thought of failing. On the other hand, fear causes procrastination in some people, so don't dwell on the thought of failing and try to put things in different perspective. Next, calendar planners and to-do lists. Calendar and planners help you look ahead and write in important dates and deadlines so you won't forget. There are a few tips for successful schedule planning. First of all, be realistic about time when you make your schedule. If your class runs to 4 o'clock and it takes you 20 minutes to wrap things up and reach your study location, don't figure you will have a full hour of study between 4 to 5 o'clock. Next, don't overdo it. Scheduling extended time periods may just set you up for failure. And thirdly, if you are not paying close attention to everything in your planner, put important things high on your list or use a color highlighter to highlight it. Next, pay attention to starting and stopping times. Don't let the initial task take time away from your next task. And fifth, cross out or check off things. Remember to cross out or check off things after you have done that. That's because it's some sort of rewarding for you. And lastly, don't make your list overwhelming because you could end up with so many things on the list that you have never read through them all. So that's all for our presentation, and now we'll proceed to the Q&A section.
So for the first question, my part, what kind of goal is considered realistic? So the answer is that on general goals that are related to your personal strengths and ability is considered realistic. In fact, dream big is good, but remember dreams without some realistic goals are just dreams and ultimately it will be filled disappointments. And the second question by Yihui.
So my part is why is it important to organize a space for you to start studying? So as we know that space is very important for many reasons. For some obvious one, some less so. So the people's mood, attitudes, and level of work productivity change in different space. Learning to use space to your own advantage helps get you off to a good start in your studies. Next, Ian, we talk about the third question.
So in my part, have you ever think that 24 hours being too short for a day? So in my opinion, actually time management is crucial to personal and society development. The real question here is that 24 hours really short for a day or we are too poor in time management. In fact, it is actually the matter of relative that we ourselves too pose in time management. Time is actually like a library. If you organize everything in its own place, you can find it very easily. So organize daily responsibilities and duties in a systematic and consistent way give you no excuse to blame. And the last question from Zoli.
So the last question, what is the difference between calendar planner and to-do list? So when it comes to task completion, of the major difference between a calendar and a to-do list is that the calendar accounts for time. Calendar planner is used to setting goals for long term, while to-do list is used to write down a handful of actionable items that you want to complete during a given time period. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to pass around the roll and also pass around the assignment sheet, the presentation sheet. Notice on the right side, I've had to change some of the dates. So this is week 8. Next week, the team 3 should be presenting. Who's team 3? Who's doing chapter 3? There should be somebody here that's doing chapter 3. Hopefully so. Anyway, then the next week, we start doing 2 a week. We have enough teams here where we haven't assigned anybody for week 15. That's kind of left for emergency, but otherwise we want to have that time for reviewing and preparing whatever we need to do the last week. So we could probably postpone something if we needed to, but starting week 10, not next week, but the week after that, we'll be doing 2 a week. So take note of that. Take note of which week you're at. So, for example, team 4. Did I get that mixed up? Team 3 is should be next week. Who's team 3? Okay. Team 4 is week 10, along with week 5. So team, the team that's doing chapter 4 and the team doing chapter 5, which right now I just have one person doing it. That's I don't remember. Anyway, hopefully if that person is going to do it, that's fine. And then the following week, week 11, we'll have 2 teams and so forth. Anyways, I'll pass this around so you can make note of where you're at. Let me be sure to go through the critique sheet that I handed out week 1 or week 2. Make note, for example, the questions that you're supposed to ask are supposed to be in multiple choice form. Because, in fact, if you give them to me in time, which you're supposed to give me 3 days in advance or something, I said, then I will be putting some of those questions into the quiz, which is another reason to listen to the student presentation, because the question should be in the quiz. I actually need to, before you take the quiz today, eliminate a question because I did get mixed up, and I put a question in there from week 1, which you haven't been assigned yet. Week 1 was done by video, and that will be part of your video assignments this week. So the question that I had tentatively put onto this week, I'll have to erase that and put it on next week because you haven't watched the video yet. I was thinking, I thought I was taking it from this week's PowerPoint, and I was taking it from the one that's on video. Okay. So be sure that you're doing multiple choice questions because they could actually, I won't use all of them, but I could use your multiple choice questions on the quiz the same day that you do the presentation. So do good questions, as I said last week. Do questions that are not too easy and not too hard. Okay, they're not so easy that anybody could just guess without listening. And they're not so hard. They're not nitpicky to the degree that you're going to have a photographic memory or whatever to remember and to answer the question. Try to something in between, something that makes people think, makes people listen, but again, isn't so easy that it doesn't mean they couldn't guess. I mean, you have one of the things you're taught is basically to eliminate any questions that you're sure or any answers you think are for sure wrong. And so you might get down to two possible answers in a multiple choice, and so you still have a 50-50 chance of guessing it, right? So I'm not saying you can't guess an answer ever. You should learn how to do multiple choice tests to the degree that you can have a reasonable chance at guessing. But obviously, I want you to listen in class too. So be it, again, make good questions, not too easy, not too ridiculously hard.